Welcome to the Claims Underground podcast with your hosts, Corey Locke and Troy Willis, where we help policyholders just like you understand your policy and how to navigate through an insurance claim. We advocate for homeowners as well as businesses when insurance companies won't pay. So if you're tired of getting the runaround and ready to find out what's really going on, then let's get down to business and learn from the insurance claims experts, Corey Locke and Troy Willis.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good. So we're going to start this off with a couple questions first, and I'll get into what I do so you guys will have an understanding how it becomes a benefit. I like to ask a couple questions first before I even introduce a little bit about myself and what my credentials are. A little louder. How many people here have had an insurance claim with their insurance company? Can I see it? Raise your hands. I see the faces. Yeah, I can see her always shaking her head now. Now, how many times did you ask that adjuster what experience do he have? Here come the major question. How many people ever read their insurance policy here? Homeowners, car, life insurance, anything?
You mean the whole thing?
Read the whole policy.
I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? The part where I signed and the part where it say how much it covered.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Now, that's interesting you said that. I'm going to cover that. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a licensed public adjuster. I am a certified appraiser and umpire. I am also a licensed builder. I'm a retired builder. I am also an expert witness for state and federal court when it comes to insurance claims. And my job is to advocate for policyholders who have residential or commercial or industrial properties whenever they have a loss. It's kind of like what your attorney do, but we build the cases for the attorney, and then we the ones to testify and make it out at that point. It just has the other legal aspect of this ramification. I'm also an author, and I put out books to help people like ourselves in business and acquire information that's just normally not shared amongst us that grow up in schools every day. I mean, how many schools have you went to that's teaching finance to our kids? Or to us, that when we grew up, we just didn't learn it. So I put together some books that we have over here as well that for people who need to improve credit, this is the way. With somebody not giving you a long book and drawing out information, but something that gets you right to the point. And if you're a person here today that's looking to prove your business, get business funding and get business credit, take that entity and make it your own and take it out of your own hands and personals, that's a book for you as well, which is the Secrets to Wealth. It's entrepreneurship, it's my Secrets to Wealth. And it's very informative, just so you know, to help you build your business. So getting back to what I do as a public adjuster. When you have an insurance claim, the adjusters that brought in on your claims, no one asks what their experience is. And the problem with that is that many of them today, as we find out, they just passed the test, some of them did. They just barely out of high school, they may have a GED, and before it used to be a bachelor's and above, and they had to be educated. Now it's seat filling. So we pay insurance all the time for this high risk to cover our properties, and then when we have a claim, we find out, oh, it's not covered. We're told that, or we're told that we don't do this, we don't do that. That contract that you purchased, which is an insurance policy, is a one-way contract. You don't have no option. Everybody here that bought car insurance, you didn't have an option but a deductible. That's really what you had, or how much coverage I want is going to cost me. You had no option in the language of the policy, okay? Many people that don't understand their policies, because our famous word is read their policy, is because when they have insurance claims, to give you some examples of how that happens, we have insurers that got $5,000-$10,000, and yet we collected $200,000-$300,000 for them later. We have a client in Tiburon, he's actually a billionaire. They paid him $3,200 State Farm. We've collected almost $1 million for him later. So it's understanding the policy for one, and understanding what your benefits are for two that's in that policy. Kind of speaking on what you said, most people read the first page or two because it's called the declaration page. They go, this is my coverages. That's not so. You read a policy from the back to the front, because in insurance, they have what's called endorsement and forms, and they're all put to the back of the policy. If you go to the back of the policy, it tells the story. What is excluded, what's not excluded, what is covered, what's not covered. And so many people that we run into don't realize they have an option of what we do here today. So if you have an adjuster who represents the insurance company, whose job is to keep down and minimize claims and costs, who hires experts to come out and say, yeah, this is how much it is, so they can keep that cost down. The question is, who works for you? And that's who people we are. There's only 376 licensed public adjusters in the state of California. We have a very small amount. There's thousands in other states. So myself and my business associate collaborated and brought together a podcast to help educate people when it comes to insurance, because too many people are getting beat out of their money. We're finding every day that the insurance company is very, very scrupulous about the things that they do. They just got exposed in Florida about how they were denying claims that was illegal. They was removing documents out to show proof of damages. They was changing reports on adjusters' reports. This is all public knowledge. In many areas like in Sacramento, not all this is considered under flood coverage.
Right.
So what we just finished doing a podcast on when it comes to flood coverage, that many people don't know that their cars were covered. When they were told that they were not covered, it fell under your comprehensive coverage, under your auto, not your homeowners. What we do here as being experts on our end of it, we come in, we take your claim when you have either a problem with your carrier or you say, hey, I know better, I don't want to have a problem, I'm hiring you. We come in and advocate on your behalf and we maximize your loss, is what we do. The reason we maximize it is because in the state of California, a contractor can't advocate for your insurance claim. Even though he's a contractor building, it's against the law. It's a $10,000 fine. There's only 2 people in the state of California that can advocate for you right now today, and that's a lawyer and myself. And if you hire a lawyer, he hires me, because I have to build a case for the lawyer. That's the way it goes, either which way around. So when you have a claim, just know that if your insurance company gave you $10,000, $20,000, there's a high probability it owes you a couple $100,000, and that's fact. Our numbers have shown over this last year on claims that we've settled and done. My firm also takes in some cases, there's case by case, and availability is pro bono. Last year we took on 25 pro bono cases, being seniors over 70s. We took in the disabled people who had disabilities, and we also did veterans over 65. We're the only firm in the state of California that does pro bono work. And that's to help our own, no matter what color, creed you are. It matters to us if you're a veteran, an elder, and of course, if you are disabled. And again, by availability. And that's a lot to take on in a year, for something you don't take payment to at all. And these claims sometimes, they can take anywhere realistically from 30 days to over a year and a half, because this is the insurance company. They're gonna fight for everything in their power not to pay you what they owe you. So my job is to come in and support that claim. My job is to come in and write that claim to where I can come to a reasonable settlement, and then I negotiate that claim based off of facts, based off of law, based off of science, and based off the ability to understand and interpret that policy you have. And the better part of the policy is that when you purchase a policy, and let's say you read the section and you're like, well, I'm not really sure if this is covered, then let me tell you what it is. It's now covered. Now, any ambiguous languages to the policy that you and I don't both agree that we understand, and the law of California is giving the grayscale to the insured. They're the person who actually will win that fight. So some people that we run into quite often is they're underinsured. They never knew what they needed on their policy. So people go, well, that's not my fault. That's the agent's fault. That's not true. You read that policy. That policy said, hey, this is an estimate value, and we need you to tell us what you need in your policy. We never read that part, though. Just us geeky people read that part. So, and we have to come back to show people that, this is what you do. I just want to address something I never normally address at meetings when I speak about them. It's something I ran into today with a claim that took us by a twist, and it turned the claim around in a major way. Our insurer was given a letter of her duties after the loss. How many people here know what to do after they have a loss? Nobody. And that's what she didn't know. She didn't understand the words mitigation. She didn't understand the word remediation. She didn't understand what she had to do after she had this loss. And they gave her a partial denial. So now it puts a kick in our bucket at her, because we just got this information and we never knew they presented it twice, not to mention to her. And they talked to her over the phone. Yes, you did mention that, but I didn't understand it. Now it's my job to undo that, unfortunately. And I have a plan in it, because I am someone who dig at the science and the law at this. And the bottom line is, when they came out to her loss, their job was to do an investigation under what's called a 790.03H, the California Fair Claims Act. They failed to do that obligation of investigating the loss problem. So I'm gonna fight that rule, because that's what you failed to do. And due to the fact you failed to do, it's an insurance adjuster to have truly informed this person why they were supposed to do it. Because in California, you can be sued as an insurance adjuster for misleading, just like I can be sued for misleading. So it's strictly important to understand this policy, and that's how we enforce it. So we take claims that's been denied up to 2.5 years, depending on the situation. If it's a wildfire, it goes 3 years. If it's a typical loss, it's 2 years. And we turn these claims around all the time. We are 100 for 100. Again, it's all about what you know, how you know it, and how you present it. And so there's no magic wand to this. It's really not. It's just experience. I've been a builder for over 30 years, literally. There's nothing I can't do from commercial and residential. I defend losses with attorneys all the time, whether it's wineries, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, fire, water, vandalism, any of those type of things. And so we get claims of all natures, like what's happened with the storm we had recently. We had a lot of wind damage, correct? And some of you might have got a letter from your insurance company saying it's not covered, it's an act of God.
Just out the blue, tell you they cover.
And I'm still laughing about that. Here's one, it never came out, so I have to lead people, and this is what we lead people in our podcast. Let's look at that. A storm comes and the wind is blowing. And let's start with the first question. Did God knock over the fence and put a hole in the roof that's damaged? No. Did the wind put a hole in the roof or knock over the fence? That answer is no. Then what happened? The tree fell over, which is a covered peril in insurance called a fallen object. And sometimes when they take the information over the phone from you, they interpret the way they want to take it. If you say I got water damage, they go, it's not covered. But you don't know, for not reading the policy, if your policy state that the act had to happen suddenly, or the act had to be reported within 14 days, depending on the policy. And some say we don't cover after 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. So one would say, well, when does it cover? Because you didn't say the word suddenly. I had a suddenly, that's covered. That's what it changed. It's all in the language of the policy of what happens. When people have fire damages out here, insurance company come in and they tell you, we'll pay you to clean the walls. We'll pay to clean your furniture. You should be happy. Well, let me tell you how that worked. We took a client up already. They gave $42,000 and told her, hey, be happy and go with God. We did more than enough for you. She hired our firm. We brought in over $500,000 because I brought out an industrial hygienist. We tested the wall cavities and found soot, char, and ash all in this lady's house. And the numbers was off the chain. So now we have to look at how do you remediate that? How do you get insulation out the wall without tearing out all the walls, all the kitchens, all the bathrooms, all the ceilings? And now you took a clean job that we once thought was clean that is now a major damage job. So I'm saying this because a lot of people that call us and say, I don't have a big claim. You don't know you have a big claim. We have public adjusters that reach out to us directly, and we're public adjusters saying, hey, I don't want this, it's not big enough. We don't take claims on dollar amount, we take claims on value, we bring a benefit. So I'm not that public adjuster that says, if you don't have a $200,000 claim, I'm not gonna represent you. The difference of it is that when you call us, you get that ear. We want to hear what's going on because I've taken the same kind of claims that people thought was $10,000 to $20,000, and I literally turned one in San Francisco to $1.2 million. They missed the whole freight of the train on that one. They was all off board completely with it because they don't write their own work. And we write all our own work in-house. We do all our own testing. We do everything except asbestos and lead testing. So we cover every basis to know what our fight is before we walk in that ring with the insurance company. That's why we're successful in it. We don't gamble to fight. We don't go in and go, we think, we hope, we wish. We don't do any of that. We only fight with those facts. So with all that I had to say today, the goal is, one, read your policy. That's the most important thing. You just never know what's in your insurance policy. And don't be afraid to file a claim. Some people are afraid to file a claim. They'll go, hey, I've been paying insurance for 40 years. I don't want them to mark my record. Why are you paying insurance? For 40 years. And that's the question I get that all the time, believe it or not. I don't want to do that because it'll make me look bad. They'll be mad at me. When did they become your friend? I've only seen the way insurance works today is that you send them a payment and you get coverage. You don't get nothing else in return. You don't get a thank you. When that payment go in, you get nothing. So where is the relationship amongst you and the carriers to say you have an obligation to them? You have an obligation to enforce that contract that you purchased on a monthly basis that says that you are entitled to A, B, C, and D. And that's what's most important. The last piece of this is that when you have property insurance claims, I was speaking to this young lady about it, there's what's called loss of use, fair rental value, that you're entitled to while the house is being repaired. So you're entitled to live outside the home and be paid back to live outside the home while the repairs are done and any additional out-of-pocket expenses. You may have additional expenses going to the laundromat. You may have to drive further mileage to get your kids to school. You're not supposed to absorb anything out of ordinary use. You still have to pay your mortgage. That doesn't change. They'll put you in temporary housing. They cover temporary housing. You'll still have to pay your electrical. They'll cover the difference of whatever is additional to whatever that electrical is. If you paid $300 a month every month and all of a sudden now it's $500, they owe you a $200 difference. So many people leave that off the table that they lose at least $5,000 to $10,000 a claim. Just because they won't take the time to say, you pay it yourself. It's like shopping for yourself. Hey, I went from mile to mile, put it on paper, and calculate the miles. And you get to charge them, was it 64 cents a mile at this point? Not including, you can't make a profit off of a loss. Keep that in mind. So when you're presenting something as a self, as to say that they're only going to pay you the value of what it is and not the value of your time. You can never tell the insurance company, I missed work. You owe me money for it, and I have to pay you. It's not going to come. I had to stay home and meet all the engineers and adjusters, and I got that. You can't make a profit off your loss. And that's the way the insurance policy works. So, read your policy, understand what it means that dwelling, my other structure, my personal contents, my loss of use. People who rent, get a renter policy because you never know when you may need to use that policy. And it's not as expensive as most of us think. I count nobody's money, but I've seen people with a renter's policy for $100-some a year. We eat that at Red Lobster. And yet you got coverage for $20,000 or $30,000 the day that your house got burned up, your landlord's house, or you got flooded out by accident. You're not standing out there trying to figure out what to do. So, again, I know none of us like eating insurance, especially us, because what we do, we got to have it all, unfortunately. And we pay a lot of insurance a year, but I feel so comfortable sleeping that, as my word is, something happen, go shopping. Don't worry about it. It's not our problem. We do it later on. I will. So, it makes that kind of difference because many of these carriers also redline us as adjusters because we can make money off of a loss if we have claims. And that's the reason they don't like when you hire a public adjuster, because they know that now this guy is going to make us pay what we owe and enforce the policy. And beforehand, that lowball estimate, when you got it, you go, there's no contractor that can do the work for this amount of money. So what do? You're not stuck. You call a public adjuster, a licensed public adjuster. That's who you reach out to. Check out their credentials. Check out if you got any complaints filed against them. Check out their reviews. People will talk about it. We've been having people call us left and right, say, I read your reviews. I appreciate it. It's my customers that left the reviews. We don't do this by ourselves. It's a collaboration with the customer. You know what I mean? It's your claim. We just driving it, but you are giving us some direction. It's like giving us the fuel, and we drive it. So it requires everybody to play their part when it comes to if you have an insurance claim, but don't ever get caught slipping, and don't ever get caught trying to take on an insurance company by yourself. They will tell you something's not covered all day long, and that is not what your policy say. Don't accept no. That's what I leave everybody with. Don't accept no. There's always an option. And when there's always an option, there's always a phone number like mine to call and say, hey, do I got a claim? Is this something that I should be filing for, or can you help me? And we'll get back to, we tell everybody, give us 48 to 72 hours because we physically read your policy along with everybody. We took in 6 calls yesterday. Imagine trying to read 6 policies and 100-something pages of policy. That's what we do. What we do. So anybody have any questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is the fee like a 33 1/3 type situation?
Good question. So a lawyer fee, I'll start with that. Lawyer fees start out realistically that we're seeing at 25% to 40% in this industry. Some I've seen as much as 50, but I won't get into them, up to 40%. As a public adjuster, you're allowed to charge between 10 and 30%. And the reason when we get into the 30%, this is where it takes a minute to get there. Let's just take an example that there's a wildfire claim that burned out the neighborhood, and the insurance company's only paying you maybe half the money. And they're not giving you the rest of the money, and a year that went by, maybe 2 years that went by. They say, we ain't gonna pay it, we ain't gonna pay it. You're getting all these denials. So you're stuck. What do? Now you're stuck. So we have to come in and reinvent the whole wheel over. We got to set a whole new scope of understanding, and that time clock is ticking for us as well, called the statute of limitation. So what we do is we carry all the funds up front. There's no upfront fees hiring a public adjuster. That's me and everybody else. It's just like hiring an attorney. The difference of it is that our fees are cheaper than an attorney, especially for the beginning. There's the however word. Sometimes it end up taking to get to an attorney, and it may have to go that if you get to carry it and just decide to say, I'm not going to be reasonable. But it saves people a lot of money to call it an attorney because they 33 to 40%, and they're not doing anything about insurance. They don't do that part. They just sue. And they're going to tell you, we need to hire a public adjuster, so we're going to do this and bring out this guy. So you're right back in the same square you in, but now you're giving somebody an extra 30%. No need to. So if the claim is new, if the claim is usually within a year, if the claim is something that haven't been denied, where it's just being sitting around and nobody's helping, we come in at 10 to 15%. Because we carry this claim anywhere, usually a claim can be carried. The average claim time used to be 4 months as of a year and a half ago. It's about 8 months now because insurance companies don't want to pay people. So we're carrying claim and expenses for 8 months to a year and a half before some of these get settled. And so, we're speaking of a lot of fees, whether it's testing fees, whether it's employment fees, insurance, everything that gets carried. Just to say we eat the same problem as attorneys do, eating that cost. And we have a fiduciary responsibility also to our customer by law. So there's a whole lot to play part, but most of the time our fees are between 10 and 15. We don't like to choke people out.
And nothing up front?
Nothing up front. And then one other thing that's good as far as when we speak of fees, for loss of use, we're the only firm out here to do it. We don't charge for loss of use. We help you collect that because that's money you need to live outside the house. If you can't afford to give us money, they're paying you to live outside the house. So if they're giving you $3,000, you got to give us $300 to $500 of that and still come up with it and pay your rent. That's not something we do. So we don't charge anything for loss of use or fair rental value, even though we represent you to get it. First things first is to get our customers in a place to stay and get them situated with their family, and then we come after that. We are the only firm in California that produces what's called a demand proof of loss within 7 business days. Everybody else right now is 120 days and 6 months out. We also offer a 20-day cancellation clause. There is no one in the state of California with any contract that offer a 20-day cancellation clause. The Department of Insurance called me personally to say this is a mistake. No, it's not. Because there's nothing that anybody can do for you that quickly, within 3 to 5 days. As we get out in 7 business days, it's beyond the industry. So if I gave you 3 to 5, then you don't know what I can do for you. So I tell my customer, it almost extends you a month because it's business days. And you get to see what I do to find out if we're a good fit. If we're not a good fit, I'm gonna let you go. If you wanna go, you can go, because I don't need to hold you hostage to your claim. We have to work together in order for me to be successful. And if I'm working against you, because you're mad with them, it never worked. And I don't have a problem giving a claim back to somebody because it's their life. So, the fees are all pushed to the back of the per check. It's like whenever we collect a check, they would write us a check. You tell us when it's deposited. That's how it works. It's just that simple. So we have to sign off. We have staff. We have to sign off. There's mortgage companies involved sometimes. They have to be listed, and so you as an insurer have to send it to them. There's a process. So we don't need to choke our people out, and it's just become simple. It's been very simple for us. Nobody feels under the pressure because, again, if we gave you a check and let's say the funds went in here and you had to wait for the insurance check to clear, you would just simply tell us, hey, it can't be deposited for 2 to 3 weeks. We just know. We don't need to go, that's not going to work for us. We just don't deposit. We're going to tell you, call us when it's ready. Nobody has the problem here. And it's been successfully working that way, to be honest with you. Any more questions? Any more questions?
Is this for auto too, or?
No, just for residential, commercial, and industrial. Unfortunately, in the state of California, not all states, they won't allow public adjusters to advocate for auto. At one time, they used to include it on our test, but now they took it off the test because we were not allowed to advocate. As we're not allowed to advocate for workman's comp, but it's on the test. One of the most hardest tests to run a cross-board state exam. Probably why it's only 376 of us out here. This is an extremely hard test.
And so it's no one that does what you do?
Unfortunately, not in California. That's the worst news to tell you, yes. Unfortunately, for auto, no. You end up having to go into a personal injury.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
So is the independent and the public adjuster, those are two different categories?
Yes, they are. An independent adjuster is one who works for the insurance company, who assists them in writing claims as an adjuster. So you have an adjuster who works for the carrier, who's a desk employee of an insurance company. An independent is one who they hire as a third party to come out and write your loss, usually with no experience. And then, of course, there's you as a public adjuster. So there's three types of adjusters in the industry. And the public adjuster works for the people. Okay? I appreciate everybody's time. I really do. I thank you for coming out tonight and giving me an opportunity to speak to you and tell you a little bit about what I do. Again, if you'd like to come out and check out some of our books that we have to offer as well as some of our information about our company in case you may ever need us, feel free to come over to the booth and I'll have a conversation with you and we can go from there. So I thank everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Claims Underground podcast. We hope you enjoyed this segment. If you need more information on insurance policies, feel free to check out our website, www.claimsunderground.com. And remember, when the insurance companies won't pay, we're here to help. Until next time.